The fire has almost burned down when someone notices the meat is gone. It had been placed beside the shelter, high enough to keep it from scavengers. Now only a greasy cord remains. One member of the group says he heard an animal in the darkness. Another remembers seeing him near the food. There are marks in the dust, but firelight bends every shadow. If the group believes a thief, an innocent person may be shamed or driven away. If it believes a liar, everyone learns that taking without sharing can succeed. There is no judge, no written statement, no camera, and no machine waiting to measure a pulse. So where does the truth live? The tempting answer is in the liar's face. Perhaps ancient people watched for shifting eyes, trembling hands, or a voice that suddenly changed. We still imagine deception this way. Stories across the world describe guilt revealing itself through the body, as though every lie leaves a crack in the mask. But modern research has found no single human signal that reliably means someone is lying. Nervous people may be honest. Calm people may be deceptive. A frightened person accused before the whole group can look suspicious precisely because the accusation is false. The body reveals pressure, not necessarily guilt. That matters because ancient humans had the same basic problem we have now, but with higher immediate stakes. A false claim about food, danger, loyalty, parentage, or another group could redirect a journey, start a feud, break a partnership, or leave children hungry. Yet accusing someone without proof could be equally destructive. Trust was not a pleasant extra. It was part of the equipment of survival. Archaeology cannot excavate a lie. No fossil preserves the moment a person denied taking meat. No stone tool records whether its maker kept a promise. What survives are the conditions that made honesty valuable. Camps used by groups, resources moved across long distances, difficult hunts requiring coordination, injured people who lived long enough to heal, and materials that passed through networks of exchange. These traces do not tell us what anyone said. They tell us that people repeatedly depended on other people. By at least the Middle Stone Age in Africa, some communities were transporting stone and pigment across considerable distances. Such movement may reflect mobility, exchange, or wider social networks. Whatever the exact route, valuable material did not simply appear. Knowledge, access, and relationships helped carry it. A person who consistently misrepresented where water could be found, who had contributed to a hunt, or what had been promised elsewhere, would make those relationships more dangerous. This creates the first important clue. Ancient lie detection was probably not a private contest between one liar and one brilliant observer. It was a group process spread across time. To understand why, consider the size of many mobile communities. People often lived and traveled among individuals they knew extremely well, though camps could change as families visited, married, separated, or joined others. A person's habits were visible. Who rose early? Who avoided difficult work? Who exaggerated a hunt? Who shared when food was abundant? Who became generous only when important people were watching? In such a world, a lie had to survive more than a suspicious stare. It had to survive tomorrow. Suppose someone claimed that a herd had moved east. Other foragers might later find tracks leading west. Suppose a hunter said he had searched a valley all day. Mud on his legs, seeds caught in his clothing, the wear on his feet, and the reports of others could support or weaken the story. These were not forensic laboratories. They were ordinary acts of attention performed by people whose lives depended on reading landscapes accurately. The ground itself could become a witness. Trackers can infer direction, speed, timing, and disturbance from signs that an untrained person might miss. Ancient tracking ability probably varied enormously between individuals and environments, but in communities that depended on animal movement, practical knowledge of signs would have been essential. A claim about where someone had gone could be compared with footprints, broken plants, blood, ash, missing tools, or the time needed to travel between places. Still, physical evidence only solved certain lies. Most deception concerns events no one can inspect directly. A private promise, an intention, an encounter beyond the ridge, a claim that another person insulted you. For those cases, ancient humans possessed a more powerful instrument than any footprint. They possessed other minds. Lying requires some ability to manage what another individual believes. The liar knows, or at least acts as though, another mind can hold a picture of reality different from the truth. Detecting deception requires the reverse move, comparing what a person says with what they know, what they want, and what they think you know. Forms of tactical deception are not uniquely human. Primates have been observed withholding information, distracting others, or altering behavior in competitive situations. Researchers still debate how much such acts reveal about an animal's understanding of another mind, but the broad pattern is clear. Wherever individuals compete over food, mates, alliances, or status, misleading others can offer an advantage. Models also suggest that cooperation itself can create opportunities and selection pressures for deception, because trust creates something that can be exploited. Human language expanded that contest dramatically. With words, a person could mislead someone about a place miles away, an event days earlier, or an intention that existed only in the future. Yet language also gave listeners new defenses. They could ask for sequence. Who was present? What happened first? Where was the sun? Which path did you take? They could compare one account with with another, return to the subject later, and notice whether important details changed. This does not mean prehistoric groups conducted formal interrogations. We cannot know their exact questioning customs, and different communities would have handled conflict differently. The point is simpler. A spoken claim could be tested against memory, probability, motive, and independent knowledge. A weak lie has only one shape. Reality has many connections. If a person says a predator stole the meat, the claim must fit the sound others heard, the absence or presence of tracks, the way the cord was cut, the behavior of nearby dogs where dogs were present, the amount missing, and what the speaker did next. The listener did not need to catch a twitch. The story could collapse under the weight of the world around it. This is still one of the most reliable principles available to us. Deception researchers generally find that popular body language beliefs are poor guides. Verbal content and verifiable context can be more useful, although even these do not provide certainty. The best question is often not, does this person look honest, but what else would have to be true for this account to be true? Ancient communities had another advantage that modern strangers often lack: a long memory of the speaker. Reputation compresses hundreds of earlier encounters into a practical expectation. A person who shared fairly, admitted mistakes, and gave accurate warnings would usually be safer to trust than someone repeatedly caught manipulating others. Not always. Honest people can lie, and deceptive people can tell the truth. But when evidence is incomplete, past conduct changes the risk. Reputation also extends beyond direct experience. One person sees an act, another hears about it, a third decides whether to hunt, trade, travel, or share with the person being discussed. What we dismiss as gossip can function as a community's informal information network. Research on reputation and cooperation shows that information about past behavior can help people choose partners and discourage exploitation. Yet gossip can also be competitive, biased, or false. It can protect a group from a cheater or become a weapon used by one rival against another. And that produces the darkest complication in this story. The ability to warn others about a liar also creates the ability to lie about a liar. A skilled deceiver might accuse first. A powerful family might make its version of events seem like the shared version. A newcomer could lack allies to defend them. A quiet person might lose against a persuasive storyteller. Social consensus is not the same thing as truth, and a reputation can become inaccurate once people repeat the same claim to one another. Which would have frightened you more? The possibility that someone in your camp was lying, or the possibility that everyone had decided the liar was you? That question reveals why punishment could not be careless. In many small-scale societies studied by anthropologists, responses to selfish or disruptive behavior have included criticism, ridicule, demands for sharing, withdrawal of cooperation, avoidance, separation, or expulsion. Severe violence has also occurred in some contexts. But there was never one universal hunter-gatherer court system. Modern foraging communities are culturally diverse and are not frozen copies of prehistoric life. They offer limited comparisons, not direct recordings of the Stone Age. Even so, the logic of graduated social pressure is easy to understand. A group did not always need to prove a lie beyond doubt. It could reduce risk. People might stop giving the suspected person sensitive information. They might avoid being alone with them, choose another hunting partner, watch shared food more closely, or refuse support until trust was rebuilt. This is less dramatic than a public trial, but it may have been more common and more effective. The cost of deception was often not a single punishment. It was a slow shrinking of opportunity. A person with a damaged reputation could lose access to cooperation. Fewer people might believe warnings, join plans, share food, support claims, or arrange future relationships. In a mobile society, leaving one camp could sometimes offer escape because people and groups were connected across wider networks. But movement could also carry reputation outward. News travels with visitors, marriage partners, traders, and relatives. The social landscape had tracks too. None of this means ancient humans were consistently good at detecting lies. Modern experiments often find human accuracy only a little better than chance under controlled conditions. Familiarity can help with knowing a person's normal behavior, but confidence is not proof. Ancient people almost certainly made false accusations, trusted charming deceivers, and misread fear as guilt, just as people do now. In fact, some conditions of ancient life may have made deception especially difficult to judge. Hunger, exhaustion, grief, danger, and rivalry all alter behavior. A truthful witness returning from a frightening encounter might remember events in fragments. Two honest people can describe the same confusion differently. Memory is not a recording. Each time it is recalled, it can be reshaped by later information and emotion. So, ancient lie detection was never a hidden superpower. It was a management system for uncertainty. The system worked best when several protections overlapped: direct observation, physical traces, independent accounts, knowledge of motives, familiarity with the speaker, repeated interaction, and consequences for being caught. No single layer was reliable. Together, they made sustained deception harder. But as settlements grew, that old system faced a crisis. In a camp where most people knew one another, reputation could travel through ordinary conversation. In a town of hundreds or thousands, strangers Strangers could trade, borrow, marry, work, or quarrel without sharing a lifetime of history. Grain could be stored and redistributed. Land boundaries mattered. Debts outlived conversations. Officials acted for institutions. The question was no longer only, do we know this person? It became, what procedure can make unknown people accountable? Writing changed the architecture of trust. Contracts, receipts, seals, witness lists, and court records allowed claims to persist beyond memory. They did not eliminate lying. They made it possible to compare speech with a durable mark. Ancient Mesopotamian legal practice shows how societies dealt with disputed truth when ordinary evidence was limited. Witness testimony and oaths played major roles. In some cases, authorities could require an ordeal, including an appeal to the river as a divine judge. Such practices were not scientific lie detectors. They placed uncertainty inside a religious and legal framework where the danger of divine punishment, public shame, or legal consequence was supposed to make false claims costly. An oath worked partly by moving the problem into the future. Perhaps no human present could know whether the speaker lied, but the speaker declared that a god would know, and that punishment might follow. The audience was asked to trust not the face, but the risk the person was willing to accept. This method could compel honesty in believers. It could also condemn the unlucky, protect the powerful, or disguise uncertainty as divine judgment. Yet its existence tells us something important. Early states did not discover a perfect bodily sign of deception. They built social machines around the fact that no such sign existed. Witnesses widened memory. Documents stabilized memory. Oaths raised the cost of falsehood. Ordeals transferred judgment beyond human knowledge. Courts created procedures for disagreement. Every invention was an admission that intuition alone was not enough. And the same admission sits beneath our modern systems. We now have recorded messages, transaction logs, surveillance, forensic science, and formal rules of evidence. Still, people remain fascinated by eye contact, posture, vocal hesitation, and supposed micro-expressions. We want truth to be visible, because visible truth would be fast. It would spare us the exhausting work of checking stories, comparing sources, and living with doubt. But a person avoiding your gaze may be ashamed, anxious, respectful, traumatized, distracted, or simply behaving according to a different cultural norm. Someone looking directly into your eyes may be sincere, practiced, dominant, or deceptive. The face is expressive, but it is not a confession written in muscle. Ancient people were often better positioned in one respect. They usually judged behavior inside a dense context. They knew the path, the weather, the speaker, the rivalries, the available food, and what had happened last season. Modern life often removes those supports. We encounter strangers through edited clips, anonymous accounts, sales messages, political performances, and profiles designed to appear trustworthy. We receive the face without the village. At the same time, digital life has recreated an enormous form of reputation. Ratings, histories, shared screenshots, public accusations, and searchable records can protect people from deception. They can also spread a false claim farther and faster than any campfire rumor. The ancient danger has changed scale, not nature. The deepest answer, then, is that ancient humans usually did not know someone was lying in the absolute sense. They estimated. They watched whether the story matched the ground. They compared accounts. They remembered earlier behavior. They asked who benefited. They listened to others. They adjusted trust gradually. They created social costs for those repeatedly exposed. And when communities became too large for personal knowledge, they developed witnesses, records, oaths, and legal procedures. Different groups, periods, and environments produced different customs. Some judgments were careful. Some were cruel. Some liars escaped. Some honest people paid the price. Human beings did not evolve a perfect detector because deception itself evolved inside a world of flexible minds. What evolved instead was something slower, collective doubt. Return to the dying fire and the missing meat. The accused person's eyes cannot settle the matter. Neither can the anger of the loudest voice. The answer lies in the cut cord, the marks near the shelter, the memories of who stood watch, the history of sharing, and what the next day reveals. Truth was not hidden in one expression. It was scattered across people, objects, places, and time. And perhaps that is why lies remain so dangerous. A lie can be spoken in a breath, but discovering the truth requires rebuilding the world around it. If this exploration gave you a new way to think about trust, share it with someone whose judgment you value. Subscribe for more journeys into the ancient forces still shaping the modern mind.